Everyone believed Adrian Blackwood was the kind of man fate could never touch, a self-made millionaire whose name alone opened doors, silenced rooms, and bent outcomes in his favor, a man who controlled stock markets with a phone call and owned a mansion so grand it felt more like a museum than a home. Yet on that dreadful evening, none of his power meant anything as his 8-year-old son, Leo, lay gasping for breath on the polished marble floor, his small body trembling in violent spasms. While the city's best doctors stood helpless, their expensive instruments blinking uselessly as they exchanged worried glances and spoke in careful, fearful tones about rare conditions, unknown reactions, and the dangerous truth that sometimes medicine simply doesn't have answers, Adrian knelt beside his son, his tailored suit wrinkled and stained with tears, his hands shaking as he begged the doctors to do something, anything, because Leo was all he had left after his wife's death years earlier, the one light that softened him and the world knew as ruthless, and watching that light fade was breaking him in a way no business loss ever could, while the massive living room, once filled with laughter and echoes of piano music, now felt like a cold chamber of despair, every tick of the antique clock sounding like a countdown. Servants lined the walls in silence, fear written on their faces, none daring to move or speak, including Anna, the quiet maid who had worked in the mansion for years without ever being truly seen, a woman with tired eyes and gentle hands who knew every corner of the house but nothing of luxury, because life had taught her survival, not comfort, and as she watched Leo's lips turn faintly blue and his breathing grow weaker, something deep inside her stirred, a memory clawing its way back from the past, a poor village, a dirt floor, her younger brother collapsing the same way, the screams, the panic, and her grandmother's firm voice guiding her hands, teaching her how to react when doctors were hours away, how to clear airways, stimulate breath, and fight death with knowledge passed down through desperation. Anna's heart pounded as she stepped forward instinctively, her voice trembling as she spoke words no one expected to hear from her. "Sir, I think I know what's happening," and the room froze, every head turning toward her in disbelief, a maid daring to interrupt specialists, daring to challenge science itself, and one of the doctors snapped at her to step back, warning her she could make things worse, while Adrian looked up at her with red, hollow eyes, anger and hope colliding in his chest, because how could he trust someone who scrubbed floors when experts were failing? Yet how could he ignore any chance, however small, when his son was slipping away? Then Leo convulsed violently, his body arching, a strangled sound escaping his throat, and something inside Adrian shattered completely as he screamed his son's name, clutching him desperately, and in that raw moment when pride and status dissolved into pure fear, Adrian looked at Anna again and whispered the words that would change everything, "Help him," and Anna didn't hesitate, fear falling away as purpose took over, her movements precise and urgent as she gently repositioned Leo, loosening his clothing, tilting his head, pressing specific points on his chest and neck while murmuring calmly, telling him to breathe, guiding his body the way she had once been taught, the doctors protesting loudly, warning of risks, but they were ignored as seconds stretched endlessly, sweat forming on Anna's brow, her arms aching as she continued, refusing to stop even when doubt whispered that she might be wrong. And then, just when the silence became unbearable, Leo coughed sharply, a weak but unmistakable sound of life, his chest rising deeper, color slowly returning to his face as he drew a shaky breath, and the room erupted into chaos, doctors rushing forward, machines coming alive again, voices shouting orders, while Adrian collapsed over his son, sobbing uncontrollably, clutching Leo as if letting go might steal him away again, unable to believe that the miracle unfolding before his eyes had come from the least powerful person in the room. Later, after Leo was stabilized and resting upstairs, doctors confirmed what none of them had initially recognized, a rare airway reflex that standard treatment had worsened, and that Anna's intervention had been not only brave but correct, likely saving the child's life. And as the mansion slowly returned to quiet, Adrian sat alone in his study, staring at the city lights through massive windows, replaying every moment, every dismissal, every assumption he had made about worth and intelligence. Realizing how close he had come to losing everything because he believed help could only come from people with titles and degrees, and the next morning he summoned Anna, who entered the room nervously, expecting reprimand or dismissal for overstepping her place, but instead Adrian stood up, walked toward her, and did something no one had ever seen him do. He bowed his head in gratitude, thanking her not just for saving his son but for opening his eyes, and from that day forward Anna's life changed, not because she became rich overnight, but because she was finally seen, respected, and given opportunities she had never dreamed of. As Adrian funded her medical training, created emergency response programs for household staff across his properties, and made it his mission to ensure no knowledge born from hardship would ever be ignored again, while Leo recovered fully, often holding Anna's hand and calling her his angel, and the mansion that once felt cold slowly filled with warmth, laughter, and humility, proving that sometimes heroes don't wear suits or titles, sometimes they wear simple uniforms and carry wisdom forged by survival. And if this story moved you, if it reminded you that courage and compassion can come from the most unexpected places, then don't forget to subscribe to our channel, because every time you do, you help us share more stories that restore faith in humanity and remind the world that even in the darkest moments, hope can step forward from the shadows.